I moved from quite a large school in England and to a decrepit seeming 300-year-old Welsh cottage, kind of up on the hills, up above Rowan with me and my sister and my parents. So moving from about 40 miles outside of London, where we could just go into London on the train, you know, and it was 40 minutes away. And we moved up here, and my first memory basically is of driving up. We had the car full of guinea pigs and a trailer full of chickens and all these, because we always had chickens all my life. And then we went up this tiny narrow lane, and it's such, Ynysgorch is quite a steep hill as well, especially when you're used to the south of England. The hedges were towering over because it was, I don't know, August or so, and the hedges hadn't been cut yet. So it felt like, almost like going up a tunnel, and then to this kind of freezing cold house, 300-year-old stone kind of longhouse, Inglenut Cottage on the hillside, and the old family was still there. So there were, one of the rooms was full of boxes. One of the rooms we were convinced was haunted. We had to sleep in there overnight. And it felt like a kind of completely wild wilderness. We used to go to the bottom shop. It's Grocer of the Royal Stores, but everyone called it the bottom shop. We used to go there for penny sweets. There was this lovely tray of penny sweets and this cat that used to sit on top of the sweets, which was rather amazing. Nobody really seemed to mind the cat sitting on the sweets. It was just, you know, why not? It was a very crowded little shop with kind of everything up in front of the window and loads of stuff behind the till, and all the kind of kids trying to crowd in there after school. Most of my childhood though was up, basically kind of up on the hill, just inside the edge of the national park. And my sister and I used to kind of go exploring up and down the stream. We had permission from the local farmers to kind of go into their fields and things, so we kind of name places, like we named Hadrian's Wall and Niagara Falls and all of these kind of things. My kind of reading fodder, I suppose, growing up was things like Swallows and Amazons, and in Swallows and Amazons they always named places. You know, they had the Peak of Darien, and so I think we were kind of following that basically. So Niagara Falls was it's about 6 foot high waterfall, which didn't have much water in it in the summer, and you know, a bit more in the winter, so it wasn't exactly Niagara. And then we used to go up the stream, and there's an old fulling mill up there, completely ruined, and it had a little kind of square hole through from the wall, and we used to be able to crawl through that into the stream and crawl back again and things. And then a little bit further up again, there's a place which we called HV, because my dad used to abbreviate everything. So like I was A instead of Anna, and the cat was SP because he was Sundance Pussy and things like that. So we called this place HV because it was Hidden Valley. And it had this kind of massive rock kind of covered in about, 4 inches of moss. And there was another rock which we sheltered under once in a snowstorm. And I think a couple of weeks later we came up and the rock had collapsed. So it's a good thing we weren't underneath it then. We were just kind of exploring. I mean, there were places where you could follow the stream for a long way, and there were lots of fields that we were basically allowed in because the farmers said we could, and there were other ones we weren't quite sure about, but the trees would come over the stream, so you could kind of sneak down the path of the stream. And then there's these old bridges, where the lane goes over, and they're just made out of these kind of slabs of stone, basically, that you can't tell from above. I think we tried to build a tree house, but that never really worked. But I mean, we didn't really need to kind of build anything or kind of take anything with us, because, crawling through the bracken and climbing up and down the stream and things, it was enough, really, You didn't need anything else. I don't know if you'd call it lonely or not, because I didn't really mind just kind of being me and my sister. And then after a couple of years, some kids moved in down the road. So I had a friend that we'd kind of cycle up and down the road to see, and I spent, half my time at her house, and she spent half her time at our house, and we did kind of stuff. They had quite a lot of land, so they had a pond dug out in the field that we used to swim in, and there was an old scout hut. The Rowan Scout Hut was on their land. I don't know how long it had been in disuse for, but it was basically a wreck, so we decided that we'd do that up, and we started painting it and trying to make it kind of nice. It never actually got nice, and then we gave up. But it was fun while it lasted. I do remember once there's a field belonging to our neighbour, and it used to have massive mushrooms in it. For some reason, they were kind of like about that big across. But then you'd pick them up and they'd be full of maggots, which was quite unpleasant, because we used to go kind of picking mushrooms sometimes, and you'd find these and you think, wow, that's amazing, that's a brilliant mushroom, and then it was just horrendous. And then I kind of heard a noise and looked around, and there must have been about 20 rams. It was like one of these Wild West films, you know, when the enemy are ranged along the cliff. I don't know if they were all rams, but they certainly seemed like they were all rams, and they all had horns, and they chased us the whole length of the field, and we basically kind of ducked underneath underneath where the trees come over the stream, and hid in the stream and kind of crawled away that way. That was a scary memory.